big issue in the upcoming election because this to me is un-American. You shouldn't force anyone to join anything. Everything should be voluntary. If you want to join, fine. If you don't, that should be your right. I'm upset, Mark, that it's not the law in all 50 states. So I know Right to Work's been moving that number up and getting more and more states on board, and hopefully we'll continue to see more and more states giving workers this right. We're up against the clock, Mark. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for the work you're doing over at the National Right to Work Committee. That's President Mark Mix with us right here on Ringside. All right. To our America's Voice viewers, a big thank you. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow to do it again. And more coming your way on WGSO for our radio listeners. More great guests and, of course, your phone calls coming your way. Jeff Cruier here on this busy Monday. We'll take a brief time out, take care of some business. We'll be right back.
Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the U.S.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Live from Capitol Hill, from Fort Defiance. This is Monday, the 27th of April, the year of our Lord 2020. You're in the War Room Pandemic. Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam, a soon-to-be Jason Miller. We've got Greg Manns in the engine room doing the work. Later in the show, we're going to have Lee Smith, the great author, and also Chris Kobach, who's running for Senate out in Kansas, about his new anti-CCP ad that he has up. You're live on the John Fredericks Radio Network on America's Voice.News, the streaming service of the Trump Revolution. That is now Dish Channel 219. Newsmax TV, now in 70 million homes. FM 99.1, 103.9 in Chicagoland and throughout the world on nexus.org, IRRS. And really appreciate G News and GTV that subtitle this later in the day in Mandarin as we blow through the firewall. That's the digital concentration camp that surrounds China, and get into the Chinese people on our own version of Radio Free China. Looks like it's not going to be a Black Monday, at least the start of it. Markets are fairly robust. Of course, a $6 trillion Federal Reserve bazooka will help doing that. Remember, here in War Room Pandemic, the oldest, the granddaddy of them all, the show that first focused on the pandemic. We focus on the pandemic part, the economic crisis it triggered, both this complete collapse of aggregate demand and also all the issues dealing with the supply chain. Then we talk about the financial collapse it triggered, both the liquidity and solvency problems. Those are all ahead of us. Bankruptcies coming, the oil patch being destroyed. And, of course, the geopolitics. That would be the Chinese Communist Party and their assault on not just the free world, principally on the Chinese people, and then America and the rest of the free world. We're doing also, just a programming note, we're doing a series of 1-hour specials by popular demand on hashtag War Room Pandemic. We got so much great feedback from the audience and from others that blew our phones up. They wanted more in-depth, not pressured by the commercial time clock of our distribution partners. By the way, speaking of that, we're 6.6 million downloads now on our podcast. This will be episode 141. That we're doing in-depth 1-hour specials. We launched our first one yesterday. Make sure you go to it. I guess, Vish, that's episode 140. That is 1 hour. The geopolitics of the CCP's war against America. We start with the big picture. Professor Dr. Edward Luttwak, who's considered, I think, the most serious geopolitical thinker of his generation, much deeper thinker than Henry Kissinger. So we start off with that. This week for 1 hour, and we're going to do these right after the show, and they'll be up later in the evening. We're doing 1 hour all week with the Committee on the Present Danger. We're drilling down into the details. Get your hands dirty. Somebody on hashtag War Room Pandemic, people have been coming all the time and saying, hey, tell me what I can do. The first thing, your first order of business is to get as smart as possible. Get as many sources. We're going to put up a reading list. We got great stories coming up. Our colleague Raheem over at the National Pulse has an amazing breaking story today. We're going to have Lee Smith on. We're converting a lot of people now that are focused on this. They understand the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's going to be a struggle, a twilight struggle between the Chinese Communist Party and the free people throughout the world. And the people in China, these decent, hardworking Chinese citizens that every day is brutalized by this totalitarian dictatorship. And you're going to see, we're going to expose all the running dogs, all the fellow travelers, all the useful idiots that are out there that are really have compromised themselves and are exacerbating the problem by going along with that. Later in the day in the show, we're going to put front and center Mr. Bill Gates. Now, I've got many friends and many colleagues that are I guess it's the anti-vaxxer crowd that are just all over Gates and the vaccines. We're going to leave that's a discussion for you guys for another day. And I want to maybe have the pros and cons with, was it Bobby Kennedy Jr. and get guys on here, the pros and the cons, and the guys say you guys are wingnuts and other people say, hey, these are devils. But we're going to focus on Bill Gates's interview over the weekend, of which has absolutely exploded. It was lead story early this morning on the Daily Mail. He takes the side of the Chinese Communist Party. That's the first thing you have to watch out for, these elites. You see them on the business channels all the time. You see them on the news channels. You should be asking yourself, as you get more and more, as you get your hands down into the earth of this and get some dirt under your fingernails of what this is, you've got to get up to speed. Now, every day we try to do this. There'll be stuff up on the site, but this is the key point. Yes, we have to get through this pandemic. We have to solve the science of it. We have to deal with it. We have to deal with this economic carnage. We have to deal with the financial capital markets carnage. We've got, I think, a clip later. Hassett, the former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors in the first couple of years of the Trump administration, is now back doing a Sunday show, and he said, hey, I think the unemployment here is going to reach levels of the Great Depression. That's what you're in. But even deeper than that, it's Ramadan right now. We just had Passover. We just had Easter, right? And the first time in 2,000 years, if you're a Christian, it's like worse. It's like being back in first century. It's like being in Rome in 64, in AD 64, right? You can't celebrate the risen Christ, right? Because you're sheltering in place. That's what this virus did. And this virus is straight from the Chinese Communist Party. Let's leave aside the fact of, did it come out of a lab? Let's leave aside the fact, were they doing change of function experiments? Let's leave aside the fact, do they have an actual bioweapons program? That's all being adjudicated. It's being investigated. We'll bring you all the breaking news on that, particularly if there turns out to be defectors that are coming out of those labs and coming out of those research groups, because most of these people were trained in the United States of America and still have quite close relationships with people in the United States of America. Let's leave aside that. Their track record of what they hid, what they lied about, what they kept to themselves, and the reason they kept for themselves, they knew it wasn't from a wet market. They knew they were going to be outed. That's why they lied about it. They lied about consistency. So all the carnage, all the death, and I think it's the greatest mass casualty event for civilians in the history of the country. I don't think we lost. Did we lose 55,000? I'm turning to my. Did we lose 55,000 civilians in the Civil War? I got to think about that. Being as I was raised in the capital of the Confederacy in Richmond, Virginia, I think, burning Columbia, South Carolina, burning Atlanta, Sherman's March to the Sea, all the battles. I'm sure it's a big number. I'm not so sure it's 55. And that was over 4 years. What people forget, this is over 8 weeks. We're going to pass Vietnam. It's 55,000 dead right now, Jack.
54, and yes, you're right. 50,000 civilians did die in the Civil War.
50,000, so we passed that.
We surpassed that.
This is a major thing. And the Civil War was what, 3.5, 4 years, right? And a lot of it took place in the South, right? And Sherman's strategy and Grant's strategy, you got to take a torch. The only way you're going to beat these guys is not beating the armies. You got to go and destroy Columbia. You got to burn this stuff to the ground, right? So my point is, civilians were combatants, right? And here we've passed it with this mass casualty event. We've passed the Civil War. We're going to pass the casualties of Vietnam sometime today. Vietnam is arguably 9 to 12 years, depending on how you think our involvement was. 57,000. This is a mass casualty event. Who's to blame? It's not your mayor. It's not the governor of Georgia. It's not the progressive Democrat up in Michigan. It's not Cuomo. It's not de Blasio. There's plenty of finger pointing on how things were done, how things would go, whether it's governors, whether it's the president, whether it's CDC, whether it's Fauci, whether it's we got our Liberate guys out there, our brothers and sisters of the Second Amendment movement. Everybody's out there. We're all at each other's throats. Hey, guess what? That's what they want. This problem. It's not Boris Johnson. It's not the what happened. They're doing a huge analysis this weekend, Jack, on what happened in Italy. Lessons learned from that. Yes, people made mistakes. People weren't on top of things. People made judgment calls that turned out later to be wrong, but they made a judgment call. That's all. This is all normal course of business in an extraordinary event. Who's to blame? Look at the University of Southampton's study, right? Who's to blame? 95% of the agony, 95% of the deaths, 95% of the economic carnage, i.e., virtually all of it. If they had just been decent human beings in the last week of December of 2019, when Brother Jack Maxey pointed me, I think the day after Christmas, because we on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and Boxing Day, Raheem Kassam had a special. We pre-recorded in the old War Room impeachment. I decided to give the lads 3 days off for good behavior. We pre-recorded those shows on Boxing Day because Jack Maxey is obviously bored with nothing else to do. He's on the Chinese sites. He says, "Hey, I think I'm picking up a blog site. I think there may be a SARS thing in China." And of course, everybody knows anything about China or Hong Kong. Immediately, they snap to attention because guess what? They lied about it then back in the early 2000s, how bad SARS was. This is why why do they have the CDC lab in Wuhan? Why do they have the P4 lab in Wuhan? It's to find a vaccine for SARS. I'm also saying for everybody's looking for a vaccine, there's no vaccine that's coming anytime soon, folks. Trust me. It's going to be year and a half, 2 years, maybe never. No vaccine for SARS yet. Okay, let's go. And the White House is now, I think, pivoting. A lot going on the weekend, Raheem. The White House is now pivoting. We just have breaking news. I think somebody just tweeted out that the president probably looks like may not even have a press briefing today, but they may actually bring the cameras into the cabinet room for his 4 o'clock meeting with executives. Raheem, put it in perspective. The reason you and Jason are here is you guys have run war rooms. You know the practicality, how you take action and put that into a message that people can understand. What is going on?
What do you want the hard truth? The hard truth is that the president no longer clearly feels like he can control the briefing room. The subject matter is either getting away from him or they are pulling away the focus of from the successes that this administration has had over the last few months to constantly hitting him. So the tactic has to change. And this White House has been typically slow to cotton on to things like that. I would have argued that they should have pivoted away from that about a week to 10 days ago. But hey, here we are. And the new strategy is to show the president at work. He has taken.
You're saying pivot away from what? Pivot away from what strategy?
Pivot away from
was
the
strategy
daily
before?
The daily briefings were there to show a president who was serving as a chief executive officer, bringing the directors to the table,
and that's how it started.
And that's how it all
come in and talk about your power moves.
Exactly, and be able to show. You have the slideshows and the presentations. Then you have the doctors up there. You have the Surgeon General up there, and you really sort of run the gamut on all of this thing. Well, what's clearly happened in the last week or so is that I think there have been two things, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think the president has personally lost interest in doing it that way because he knows he's putting himself up there just to be torn a lot of times unfair chunks out of day in and day out, sometimes spending over 2 hours at that podium. And then secondly, actually the media narrative has begun to shift, not just from, oh, this president has failed us and all of these things that we're used to hearing, to actually, hey, he's not even doing any work. He's eating a hamburger and fries and sitting in the Lincoln bedroom or whatever. And that's something that the president took great umbrage with this weekend on his Twitter feed, saying, I'll be at my desk, I'll be working, and then I'll read somewhere that I'm angrily eating a burger and fries. And he actually said that. It actually made me laugh because that's...
So should he care about that?
I think he should care about that.
Okay, why?
Because this is an election year. This is a year where the media knows that any chunks they tear out of him isn't going to be like last year. It's not going to be like the impeachment. It's not going to be like the Russia investigation. This is going to directly impact an election, and what they're doing and what he's seeing. But
that's if you play into it. They're going to look for outcomes. You're being weighed in. Every day is November 3rd. You're being weighed and measured every day on your actions and the outcomes of those actions. If you fall into the process part of it, it then becomes a part of process. What started as the power moves and coming out and talking about, hey, here's the action we're taking, here's the outcomes we're looking for, has kind of devolved into a process.
I got to say, I think it's good for him to step away. I think he's created a really good team. I think that most of America likes Dr. Birx. I think most of America even likes Dr. Fauci. What I'd like to see is him step away from the podium and have the narrative go like this. Dr. Birx steps up and says, this is what we are advising the president. Dr. Fauci steps up and says, this is what we are advising the president, because I want the scientific leaders to start taking ownership for the decisions that are being made, because Trump gets hammered.
That's one of the things we've advocated. Do an economic task force, but when the scientists come up, Fauci and Birx, more detail, more metrics, more graphs, more science, more data driven. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll return. Go to #WarRoomPandemic. Get into the show. We'll be back in just a moment.
Everyone loves the benefits of compression socks, but they're just so hard to get on. Until now. Introducing the all-new Copperfit Energy Socks, redesigned for the first ever easy on, easy off fit to help reduce swelling, relieve tired, achy muscles, and provide energizing support. A new blend of stretch fabric for the most comfortable, easy on, easy off compression fit.
Being a SWAT commander, we train to win. The Copperfit Energy Socks, they didn't feel like other compression socks. They totally exceeded my expectations.
Our most powerful copper-infused fabric, woven into our easy-on, easy-off compression sock to help reduce swelling discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant. Copperfit Energy Socks worked beautifully.
Extra support around the arch and ankles for increased support and relief of muscle aches and pains.
I'm so excited about these socks. I'm so much more energized to go do things after a day of work. They just slip right on, yet they still have that same compression that you want.
A soft cushion footbed for all-day comfort.
I'm on my feet at least 9 to 10 hours a day. These were fantastic. A lot of compression socks are a little too thin, especially for what I do. With Copperfit, I could wear these every day.
Feel more energized. Feel more active. Just feel better.
They just hug your leg. It relieves all the pressure that you have. I have so much energy, I can go, hey, you want to dance?
The first ever easy on, easy off compression sock. The most comfortable compression sock you will ever wear. Get your Copperfit Energy Socks now online at GetEnergySocks.com for only $19.99 or call 1-800-978-1224. Order right now and we'll include a second pair of compression socks free.
I've never felt anything like it before.
No more pain, no more swelling, no more achy, tired feet.
I can never go back to regular compression socks again.
Don't settle for ordinary. Ask for the original by name, Copperfit Energy Socks.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx.
Next.
So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
Some people say dress your age. That's ridiculous. I dress how I feel. Yesterday, I felt bold with boundless energy. This morning, I woke up calm and unbreakable. Tomorrow, who knows? Age is just an illusion. How you show up for the world, that's what's real. What's your idea? I put it out there with the GoDaddy website. Make the world you want.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back live from Capitol Hill, Monday, the 27th of April, year of our Lord 2020. It's Elliot that said April, T.S. Eliot. April is the cruelest month. It's been a cruel April. What do we have? What's the casualty count there, Mr. Raheem Kassam?
So we're showing 54,877 according to the Johns Hopkins University as of right now. Obviously, that number that CNN flashes up is updated about every, I think, 15 to 20 minutes. So it hasn't updated since we've been live. So we're watching the number about to pass 55,000 and bearing down closely on the number, the huge number of cases in the United States as well. You're looking at, I think, 34,000 shy of 1 million cases in the United States.
We should pass that today with the testing that we're doing. We'll be
Walk
over
me
that.
through. This is one thing to go back to your previous efforts. And I want to play these clips because we're already a segment behind. But I think this is important today. You're seeing now the practical nature of governors saying how these states are going to be open. I was on the John Fredericks, our co-producing partners, show early this morning, and I said, look, I still think the guys you're going to focus on are DeWine in Ohio and Abbott in Texas, that those will be the two lead sled dogs of how to do this in a smart, tough, focused way. You know, Kemp's got his own ideas about how to do it. Obviously, the White House is not happy about the way to do it because the key is to do it smart. You know, and this is about smart. You know, Barry Sternlicht. Is the hotel guy. He's on CNBC on time. He's on Maria this morning. But he's the kind of guy who gives you this happy talk in the upside and then slides in this thing. He's sitting there going, yeah, it's going to come back. We're going to open up. And I'm looking, it's going to be doing, it's going to slow. And then he slides in, yeah, but, and this kind of like, even Maria didn't catch it. He slides in. When you come into our lobbies or into our restaurants, you're going to sign a release, right? That gets us off all liability because, you know, you could have gotten the thing from a cab, from an airline, and you're going to sign a release because we can't help you liable. Well, dude, that's, and we got to have a rethink of how this is going to open. We've been saying the key that picks the lock is the insurance industry, right? Covering the liability because the little store owner, Barry Steinlich doesn't want the liability. The little store owner who'll be sued personally and they'll come after his house and his net worth and everything like that. He didn't have the option, so that's why it's got to be. So I know you had some problems with Jack's thing of the earlier about just have the scientist up there. What's your beef?
Well, no, my beef is I don't have beef. I'm a vegetarian today. The question is, you know, when you're pivoting the president away to looking more like, you know, he's in the meetings, he's running the meetings. That's a strategy that you use when you're pivoting away from something like smashing the curve and crashing the curve, and you're moving towards how you reopen. He's more hands-on managerial, and I think that's appropriate in this circumstance. What it also is it doesn't give the media an opportunity to try and knife every single thing that you say, every single person you bring to the podium. That you're not opening people up to taking questions that they don't necessarily want to answer.
Well,
even the people the media claim to like,
yeah, but
like
I think
the Surgeon General got blown up.
I think the assumption is that you have a pre-meeting where you go up there and you say, hey, this data that we present is tied to the action plan we're taking. This was, I think, the problem the other day. The president did hear, and some guy cut out my saying and said, "Oh, Bannon agrees with the drinking the Clorox." No, what I was saying is that, and clearly they backed it up. Right now on therapy, on the mass on point, therapeutics being key because we're not going to have a vaccine. Assume no vaccine. You have to do this with no vaccine. Vaccine comes, God bless us. It's like Jonas Salk and polio. Okay, assume no vaccine. On the therapy side, you have to have 200 things in research. Mm-hmm. The UV light in the Clorox, whatever. I'm sure it's out. That's like DARPA. This is BARDA, the DARPA equivalent. DARPA's for the Defense Department. BARDA's for the health system guys, public health. You have to have 100 of these. And there, what the problem was, he clearly heard it, walked the guy down. He's sitting right over there, and the president's tossing out ideas, which are fine for a meeting. I have no problem with that. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? I don't really understand it, but can the light go down? No, Mr. President, this is what it is. Here's our research program. We need another $2 billion. You're going to have to get this through Congress. That's a logical way. What happened is that you can't wing it because right now, and you can't do riffs because right now the media is in a kill zone. They see the polling. They see that it's not the briefings. I think is what's brought the polling down is the 2/3 of it's tied to taking this junior varsity reporters, and you're not even question answer. It's a presidential debate. You have these unknown people from unknown sites that get into a debate with him, right? And so I still agree with Jack. I do think you want to bifurcate it, but when the scientists walk up there, They're talking metrics. They're talking, and it's part of a program. If they start getting beat up, they ought to have the answers to say, no, this is what we're doing. We still
you're
don't.
forgetting the cardinal rule here in all of this is you can't change Trump. You can't change Trump. You can only change what's around him. You can only change the manner with which he presents things, not the actual person and not the actual way he deals
I don't
with
think
things.
you want to change him.
Right, but if you're saying don't riff, I mean, he's gonna riff.
Oh,
he's gonna riff.
I think to a certain extent, though, we're kind of getting past.
This is what happens when you show up late.
I know.
No, you got to
earn the mic.
No, you got to put the quarter in the mic. We want to introduce our guest, Jason Miller. Right?
No, but here's the. Sorry, is it the briefing room? I thought we were starting early today. but here's the thing. It's Steve. Just the same way you say we have to prepare that we're never going to have the actual vaccine. I think we also have to be realistic that we have to prepare that we're never going to have the tests in the way that we want to. We keep talking about the overall test or the antibody test. We are never going to have the ability.
Yes, we'll explain that too.
And the other thing too, if you go back to what Dr. Birx was saying on the Sunday shows yesterday, with some of these, especially with the antibodies, you have to test people twice. You have to do it multiple times, and we don't know if the antibody thing. So we're not talking 300 million tests. We're talking, we're just, going off.
We were confused. Did she actually say? I thought I heard her say we need twice as many tests available now, even to do the opening.
We'll play that clip when we come back in the next segment. But I think there's one other thing too here is the other thing I want to make sure that we're not bearing is the fact that by shifting, the White House has to be careful how they do this shift, because to be clear, part of the reason for doing the economic shift is because all the states are there. If you saw every TV show this morning, every magazine format, it's not just Georgia. The beaches were packed in California this weekend. Texas is opening, all these states. So the rest of the country is moving. People, even the hardcore Trump supporters, saying, guys, we've had it. We have cabin fever. We got to get out.
Even the progressive left, they're just saying, I can't take this anymore.
They're saying, can't take it.
This is America. I got to get on the roll.
Exactly. We're going to roll the dice. We just want to get out there.
The thing that unites us is that we're doers. People just can't take this anymore.
Right. Like, hey, let's get the NBA back. Let's get ready for college football. Who cares if we lose a few more people? I mean, folks are just ready to roll here. But here's the thing that keeps coming back to: the White House is going to have to take a much stronger hand when it comes to the reopening standards, because otherwise, if the president comes out and just does say the economic briefings, or if he comes more of that, we're going to have the same issue that we did back during the Birx-Fauci briefings, where we're taking more of a decentralized federalist approach. It's going to come back to the same thing. The White House has to put out a stronger reopening plan to be able to lead. Otherwise, we're following.
I think they also, do we have the clip on, I want to play Mnuchin and Hassett, because the other thing is that I think look, given that it's economic carnage, there is a good story to tell in the fact that we've done everything humanly possible at the Federal Reserve level, other places, to try to prop this up. There's clearly problems with some of these programs, but in a macro sense, we've done what we can do, and we're going to have this huge epic fight over phase 4. But the messaging's got to be in line. You got Mnuchin who's saying, hey, we're coming back in a hard V with these openings. The governors will have hard V in July and August, right? And you got Hassett, who I think is terrific. And I'm glad he has volunteered as a patriot. He was the head of the CEA, which is the Council of Economic Advisors. Kevin volunteered to walk away from his business to come back in and help the thing. But when he said the unemployment's going to be the size, the thing of the depression, I get the math. I don't know if I want my economic advisor saying that in a clip, right?
Well, especially not in the same cycle where Secretary Mnuchin is out there saying the economy is going to be rocking and rolling, but he didn't use rocking and rolling, but back up in a vigorous format in July, August, September. Literally.
Do we have those clips? Let's play them.
Well, Chris, I think as we begin to reopen the economy in May and June, you're going to see the economy really bounce back in July, August, September. And we are putting in an unprecedented amount of fiscal relief into the economy. You're seeing trillions of dollars that's making its way into the economy, and I think this is going to have a significant impact.
That was Secretary Mnuchin.
And this is about, the trillions is about this $6 trillion the bridging event, which is these relief bills. The other is these Federal Reserve, $6 trillion bazooka. There's been tons of liquidity put into this system, and that should prop this thing up for a while till we get to the opens, and then we got to open in a smart, tough, and focused way.
Next one?
Yep.
Make no mistake, it's a really grave situation, George. This is the biggest negative shock that our economy, I think, has ever seen. We're going to be looking at an unemployment rate that approaches rates that we saw during the Great Depression. During the Great Recession, remember that was a financial crisis around 2008, that we lost 8.7 million jobs in the whole thing. Right now, we're losing that many jobs about every 10 days. And so the lift for the economic lift for policymakers is an extraordinary one.
So I know what he's saying. He's saying, "Hey, this thing is horrific," and it's not a problem. He's got to be truthful. It's just it's a conflicting message that day. We're coming back out, and we're in the Great Depression. I guess in the interim, we are in the Depression, but we're going to come out quickly.
Yeah, and the other big thing that Secretary Mnuchin was stressing was that this isn't a liquidity issue, that once we get people back to work and people start buying and purchasing and driving around and using energy and all these things, the economy should go back to where it was or start approaching it. The issue, of course, then becomes how do we safely do that? When does it become fully ramping up? What future efforts? Is there a fourth or a fifth or a sixth stimulus rescue package that has to come out? What's this timetable?
The fourth stimulus package is going to be a battle of the titans. This is going to be Mitch McConnell. These guys are looking at do you go in and do you infuse the states with cash? Do you bail out these pension plans of the states? What is the fourth one? Where does it lead? What are the outcomes? I don't think the first three were kind of united in the height of a crisis. Now we kind of have our hands around it, right? Not perfectly, but you kind of see that. That's what I think.
The other thing too, and these guys are the least. Put it this way: nobody has the landlord's back. But the issue with REITs, the real estate investment trust, the people. If you don't have Cheesecake Factory, you don't have Chipotle, you don't have renters, anyone paying rent for months on end. These companies are all going to be upside down.
Demand destruction. Okay, we're going to return. Put it all in perspective when we return on War Room Pandemic.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this.
Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active like Copperfit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with Copperfit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
Copperfit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
Copperfit, live limitless.
At Leaf Filter, we're on a never-ending journey to end gutter cleaning forever. Whoa! Way too dangerous, Bill. Say goodbye to that ladder. Way too clogged, Melissa. Those black gutters are causing serious damage to your home. Look at these cracks in your foundation. Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system, will keep you safe and protect your home. Leaf Filter's stainless micromesh screen fits over your existing gutters and is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water. No more leaves or debris in your gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate, just like Paul. With Leaf Filter's lifetime warranty, we guarantee you'll never have to clean those nasty gutters again. Everybody okay with that?
I should.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Act now and save 15% off your purchase.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. War and Pandemic, Monday, 27 April, year of our Lord 2020. The president, and by the way, the tweet right before you got here was that he's may not do a briefing today, but may have the cameras come in and they're going to see him in an action-oriented environment with these CEOs.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, that's good. I mean, ultimately, President Trump is going to be judged on his efforts for the recovery. I mean, that's what people want to see is the action. What people love about President Trump, this goes to Raheem's comment about President Trump never changing, is they like to see him smashing through the red tape. They like to see him putting bureaucrats on blast and saying, no, idiot, I wanted it done yesterday. This is Trump time. Why don't we have the vaccine yet? Why don't we have this done? Put it in the situation where he's bossing people around.
How does he do that with these governors? And Kemp kind of did his own thing, right? Kemp's opening. John Fredericks is doing his show. He's driving down to get a tattoo or a back tattoo, or excuse me, a haircut. I think John Fredericks says a haircut.
Did you see the clips of Fredericks lifting weights this weekend?
No.
He put up on Twitter like he was actually throwing around some decent chest press lifts. So I'll give.
There's certain things I can't watch. That's John Fredericks working out.
No, he had
certain things that you can't unwatch as well if you see it.
Let's go to. I want to go to Sternlicht and I want to go to Burks because I think this gives a confusing idea of now, and because you've done this Federalist idea, you've sent some overall guidance, and people are still saying, "Hey, we're weeks away." Fauci goes, "Oh, well, we're 6 weeks away from half the country being ready." You set some guidance, and like you said, the train's left the station. People are opening. This is coming. The political class is in back of the people. People are saying, "Hey, we got to do this," but it's still it's muddled ideas and even major concepts. Let's go to
yes. This is Barry Sternlicht, Starwood Capital Group Chairman and CEO.
I was talking to CEOs of Hyatt and Hilton the other day. I mean, we're going to develop a good housekeeping seal of approval, how you open a hotel. So we will temperature check you most likely as you come in. You might have to sign a liability waiver because no businesses can open knowing that an individual could sue them. We don't know if they would have gotten COVID in our hotel, in the car to the hotel, on the plane to the hotel, kissing their parents before they got on their trip. So we can't have that liability cloud over the entire industry. And then we're going to learn how to operate our hotels in a smart manner. We're probably...
Okay. We brought this up a month ago. This is not a small thing. This guy's sitting there, he's telling Maria, oh, yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to be back. We're unlocking. Oh, yeah. But two things. You're going to take a temperature check when you walk in, and you're going to sign a liability waiver.
Yeah, and this goes right to the point I said this before, that the real reason why people sign in when you're going into a building, especially a big tower, isn't because it's some kind of big security check. The reason is because the insurance companies following 9/11 said we need to know who's in the building and what's going on. That's the real reason you do those
Barry
signings.
Sternlicht is a total promoter. He gets on and promotes all the time on these news shows, and nobody oppresses him. Barry Sternlicht is a promoter, okay? Nobody in their right mind is going to walk in and sign a blanket waiver of liability and go in, because if he caught it later, you said...
I think that's going
to... Hang on.
Okay.
Somebody... look,
hashtag war and pandemic.
Pull from hashtag war and pandemic here.
War and pandemic.
Fire Wisconsin says, read that baseball ticket to the Nationals game. Read the fine print. You're already doing that.
I get yes, but that's an implied. This is where you're actually signing. At the Nationals game, they don't have a pandemic, right? Here, they're very specifically asking you to sign away that no matter what happens, you've signed away and said that they're certified, and you go. If you get the virus somehow from a food handler or something like that, it's your fault. You have no legal recourse.
But if there's no liability if you get hit by a foul ball, get a concussion.
No, but that's different. I think that's very different than knowing that you're in the middle or coming out of a pandemic. We'll have to see. I just happen to think that when Americans, I'm not going to walk into a lobby and sign a guy's waiver. I'm not going to do it. So I guess I'm not going to be going to Barry Sternlicht's hotels. Would you do that? Hashtag. By the way, let's get the hashtag war and pandemic crowd. They're not shy about telling us what they think. Tell us what you think. Would you sign a waiver that signed away all your rights, all your legal recourse, essentially? Held these institutions they're off the hook, right? You sign away. Not that a good lawyer couldn't get back and said, hey, they were gross negligence and reckless about how they did it, which would be the fight. But so Jack Maxey, libertarian par excellence.
I'm not a libertarian. I think the problem with this is going to be that how would you prove it, right? I mean, remember when that woman sued the senator from Connecticut for her STD, and they tried to do a genetic study.
This is a family show. This is
right.
Not a senator from Connecticut, Chris Dodd. Okay.
Can I just comment upon what a uniquely American conversation this is as well? In no other country on planet Earth would you be having a conversation about business liability on the back end of a pandemic. It would get laughed out of a court anywhere else in the Western world. To the idea of holding a business responsible, unless, as you say, there's gross negligence somewhere, i.e. your chef is knowingly coughing on every meal that they put out. But just if
Typhoid Mary.
If you're picking it up off a surface, of a door handle, off a pen, no way is that heard in any court in anywhere else in the world. And it shouldn't be heard.
You guys don't watch late night cable news because at about 11 o'clock, right when Brian Williams and in War Room Pandemic.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you only watched the War Room Pandemic replay.
War Room Pandemic replay. The reason I watch it because they actually do great B-roll on it. Right, it's like a produced show. And I don't have to look at these ugly mugs because it's covered by B-roll. No, is that almost all the advertising are from the strike lawyers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's no, that's part of Americana, and this is obviously going to be every casket has a lawyer, but in the future, according to Raheem Kassam, every cough has a lawyer.
Well, and I think if you split it out too, I mean, the whole temperature check, I mean, this will be Vish Burra's side hustle is being a bouncer at these places to do the temperature check. I'd actually feel better about that going to a place because then you have a sense of, okay, well, people inside must be healthy. They've turned away people that aren't. So, it takes 1 or 2 seconds now. Obviously,
let's go to Burks. Let's go to Burks and the confusion of what she's talking about.
And you've heard a lot about these antibody tests, what we've been working on with CDC and with the FDA, because we did this. There's other diseases where we try to find asymptomatic cases, whether it be chlamydia or HIV or HPV. We know how to do this. And so with an antibody test, you often want to do 2. That increases what we call the specificity and sensitivity of the test to make it more accurate. So we've been waiting, and it's why we haven't come out with the specific algorithm, although we think we will have it by the beginning of this week, to really talk about how you do one test followed by, if you're positive, you confirm that with a second test.
This is also where Peter Navarro. Do we have Navarro's? Because he lit up. Isn't this where the Chinese? Now, it's not about. This is where this issue about their 21 types of antibody tests right now, and only 3 of them work. That the Chinese have flooded the market. That's one of the problems in Germany. They flooded the market with malfunctioning or things that give false positives, Mr. Jack Maxey?
This is true, and it's much worse when you're talking about the tests that test people for the active disease. I mean, I was talking to someone about this a few days ago. You wonder if the failure of the Chinese scientific tests might be why they failed to be able to contain it in some respects in China. Because they were obviously testing people and coming up with bad numbers as well, and perhaps sending infected back out into the community. But we're having a problem with these tests across the board, especially on the antibody tests. Part of it is that some people produce more antibodies than others. Some people are actually recovering and seemingly not producing any antibodies, particularly people over 60 years of age. I think that one of the major problems with all these testing is that it's a snapshot in time, and you could be clear today and not clear tomorrow.
I just want to give you Mark Knoller. I think Mark Knoller is CBS Radio, right? CBS Media. He tweeted out, senior White House official Peter Navarro accuses China of flooding the United States with faulty coronavirus tests, that's this antibody test, that he says are low quality and provide false readings. On Fox News, Navarro also slams China for seeding world with coronavirus while vacuuming up PPE. Doesn't stop for press gaggle.
Yeah, I mean, zero Pinocchios. We'll go play the clip.
Yeah.
Mr. Navarro, Bill Gates was talking about the blame of China, and this is what he said. I wanted to get your reaction after you hear this soundbite.
Sure.
Some countries did respond very quickly and get their testing in place, and they avoided the incredible economic pain. And it's sad that even the U.S., that you would have expected to do this well, did it particularly poorly. But it's not time to talk about that. This is the time to take the great science we have, the fact that we're in this together, fix testing, treatments, and get that vaccine, minimize the trillions of dollars and many things that you can't even dimensionalize in economic terms that are awful about the situation that we're in. So that's a distraction.
So he says it's not time to talk about blaming China. Your thoughts?
Look, China spawned that virus. They hid it for 6 weeks. They could have contained it in Wuhan. They didn't. They seeded the world with this, with hundreds of thousands of Chinese getting on aircraft to Milan, to New York, and other places. During that 6-week period, what they did was they vacuumed up the world for personal protective equipment, over 2 billion masks, depriving public health care workers around the world from the defenses they need. And today, China's profiteering basically from this situation. Bill Gates, I'm all for innovation, but we have to hold China accountable. And now China is even flooding us with these bad tests. So Mr. Gates and I will differ on the need to hold China accountable.
Here's the interesting thing. It shows you CBS did not go the main. His thing about the test was not a throwaway, but was not the main drill. This is Bill Gates, and I'm glad that the Daily Mail put this up. It was the Times, I think the Times of London, he gave a video interview this weekend. Bill Gates is completely and totally corrupt. I want to go back, if we can, and play the beginning of that where he takes China off the hook. What Navarro said was talked about the test. We have an antibodies test problem, and that too many of these tests are made in China, and they don't work, right?
Well, it's kind of a simple equation here with Bill Gates and the World Health Organization. Okay, you've got the largest donor of the United States. Apparently, it's a question of whether or not Communist China or the Gates Foundation are the number 2 donors. So if there are 3 players, who is Gates going to fall in line with? The President of the United States, or is he going to fall in line with Tedros and the CCP? It's that simple. Because his people are inside the CDC, they didn't tell him. You know, I mean, what's going on inside the World Health Organization? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Play it again. This is big.
Some countries did respond very quickly and get their testing in place, and they avoided the incredible economic pain. And it's sad that even the U.S., that you would have expected to do this well, did it particularly poorly. But it's not time to talk about that. This is the time to take the great science we have, the fact that we're in this together, fix testing, treatments, and get that vaccine, minimize the trillions of dollars and many things that you can't even dimensionalize in economic terms that are awful about the situation that we're in. So,
okay, these are 2 lies. And he's trying to do a misdirection play. 2 lies. Number 1, he says some countries did a great job of testing. No. What they did in Hubei and Wuhan was literally they quarantined Wuhan and went door to door and kicked your door in, and they took your temperature. And if they deemed that you had it, you went to the quarantine center. Next stop was you're going to get cremated. Okay. If you didn't open up for a test, They nailed you into it. Remember, they're not counting number of people starved, jumped out of buildings, committed suicide, okay, in the death count. And that number is not a small number. So this is Gates is lying about. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The poll is now on war room pandemic.
Okay,
if
what's the
people
poll?
will be willing to sign a liability waiver before entering a small business. 322 votes so far.
How would it stand?
79.1% now saying yes, I'd sign.
They would sign a liability waiver. Okay, I like that. This is a tough crowd. We're going to take a short commercial break. We'll return with Bill Gates in a moment.
Welcome to Drive Across America, brought to you by CarShield. I'm your host, Chris Berman. CarShield makes sure you don't pay for expensive car repairs. We all know the cars will break down, and if your car is out of warranty, those expensive repairs could really be a disaster. That's where CarShield comes in. With coverage through CarShield, you'll never have to pay for covered repairs again, which is why I'm a very happy customer. Now let's hear from the fans. How has CarShield helped you?
I saved $6,000 on my engine.
Wow, and what about you?
They saved me $3,500 on my AC compressor.
Well, you heard it here, folks. CarShield is America's #1 auto protection provider for a reason.
When your car's check engine light comes on, that could spell big trouble for you and your wallet. An engine, transmission, or computer system breakdown could cost you thousands of dollars. But with CarShield, you'll never pay on covered repairs. CarShield covers practically all makes and all models, new or used.
The first 3 months, we saved $4,100.
CarShield saved me $7,000 on an engine and $3,000 on a transmission.
I saved $4,100 out of pocket.
CarShield's protected over 1 million Americans from expensive car repairs. It's the coverage that virtually pays for itself.
If your car is out of warranty, you're at risk of getting stuck with expensive car repairs. Call CarShield now and get towing, roadside assistance, and rental car coverage at no extra cost.
That's our show today, but don't drive another second without protection from CarShield. Why do we love CarShield?
CarShield cars go farther!
Now it's the time to make the smart choice and protect yourself from sky-high auto repair bills. Call now for a free and instant protection plan quote. It's only a matter of time until repairs are needed. And once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 800-580-0521, 800-580-0521.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room. We got some breaking news there, Raheem?
Yeah, Hillel Neuer, who's the head of this fairly reliable NGO that I've watched for quite a while called UN Watch, is tweeting based on the blog post of one Jamie Metzel. Jamie Metzel, a geopolitical expert who has been a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, was the director for multilateral and humanitarian affairs for the National Security Council in the Clinton administration, and was deputy staff director of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee under Joe Biden. His blogged about where he thinks the coronavirus has come from. Quote, the most likely starting point of the coronavirus crisis is an accidental leak from the Chinese Virology Institute in Wuhan. He believes researchers were studying the viruses out of good intentions, but lists the primary evidence in large part in his blog at jamiemetzel.com. We're going to be drilling into that as the day goes on.
Here's my point. This is the way. It's not a conspiracy, folks. It's not a deep state. It's up in your grill. This guy's one of the guys, a globalist that worked on Biden's thing, worked over at Clinton. This is how they go back and forth. These are the guys that do the work. Okay, so that the mouthpieces like Biden and Clinton can talk about it. These are guys that do the work. So when he flips, and he's sitting there because he understands it's not going to be defensible and you're going to lose your credibility. This is one of the most important events in world history. Right, it's going to end up killing, hundreds of thousands of millions of people over time. It's already had economic destruction beyond comprehension, right? And when you have a guy like that, it flips already. Calling Mr. Gates, this is why we got to get to the bottom of this thing today. The one thing that Gates gets him off the hook, first off, it's a total lie about certain countries didn't. Yes. Was everybody as organized as they were supposed to be? The answer is no. Okay. But you can't hold out what the CCP did. They did definitely crash the curve, but the brutality in which they did it, a democracy can't do. Bill Gates just leaves that aside. But the big lie, and this is because Gates is up to his neck in it. This is going to come over time. He's making excuses for the World Health Organization. The Gates Foundation is up to the neck with the World Health Organization, up to the neck. Who knows what they're doing all over there? He came in and met me the first month of the administration, yammering about something, whining about something, wanted a ton of money thrown to the Gates Foundation. I said, we're not interested, right? Not interested in what you're doing. He kind of took it, sorry I offended you, but we're not interested, okay? Not interested. And now you're a running dog for the Chinese Communist Party. They haven't even given us the correct sequencing. Every scientist says that. The Nobel Prize winner says that. And Gates gets up there and, oh, no, now's not the time to look at this guy. No, now's exactly the time to look at it. And you know why you don't want to look at it? Because you're hooked up in it, dude. Okay, we're going to get into the World Health Organization, find out all your staffing has been going on, everything you've been doing. It's all going to come out, right? And you're sitting there going, oh, it's no, let's not look at it. We'll look at that in a couple of years. No, we're going to look at it now.
Well, Ms.L addresses this in his Newsweek piece on the very same subject. He says, just as we wouldn't imagine having a plane crash and not immediately trying to find out what happened, we can't let the COVID-19 crisis unfold without urgently understanding how our systems have so spectacularly failed. There are plenty of fingers to point, and we must thoughtfully point them now at all of us for our own good. For all we know, a new and even worse pandemic could begin before we have overcome this one. Until we get to the bottom of all these failures and work to fix them, we remain dangerously susceptible to the next pandemic. We are all on the same plane with a shared interest in not letting it crash. Let's work together to safely land the plane. That is a direct rebuke to the Bill Gates of the world.
And Gates says, jump in here.
The other thing is, let's remember, this is about science. Everybody wants to turn this into some sort of political reaction, but you don't have to be political to want to know the truth of where this virus came. Just from a public health standpoint, we have to define how this started, how it got out of control in the world. And quite frankly, Mr. Bill Gates and his staffers over at the World Health Organization have some answering.
Look, and it's even front page of the South China Morning Post this morning has a big article on China being in the crosshairs and essentially this worldwide reparations effort. A lot of stories with China in the crosshairs this morning. The National Post calls it China's Chernobyl moment. Here's where I think we're going to get into this a little bit more in the next hour, but one of the South China Morning Post columnists speculates that this is the end of America. And the Asia Times even has a story this morning saying, why is America cracking up? So if you don't think that we're heading to this massive Cold War between the U.S. and China, like
not cold, hot.
No, we're hot, and we're already there.
Hot, yes.
We're already there.
Oh, no. This is we're in the main event now. This is the main thing, right? But to go back just to Gates, because you gotta, and listen, his idea about how you handle this thing overall, I at least was, it's fairly aligned, but you got to shut these things down, do it tough, do it smart, then open them back up about the science and about the data. But his was always to play the 3-card Monte. What he always wanted to get to was to this. The problem he has now, it's not even about, and I'm saying, hey, put a pin in coming out of the lab, what they were doing in the lab, the Chernobyl part of it, which is incompetence. And also, remember, in Chernobyl, they were doing a surge test that they didn't do correctly. They were not competent to do, okay? Here, what you're going to find out, they're doing change of function experiments that are verboten, right? They're doing stuff in there. Their weapons program, they've got a weapons program. Everybody knows they've got a weapons program because these guys cheat on everything. The weapons program is not in the Wuhan lab, but that's where they do some of the experiments on the viruses, right? The Bat Lady, right, who said, what'd she say? Jack Maxey dug it up out of Scientific American, I think on March 11th. She said on December 29th or 30th, Brother Maxey?
The 30th, yeah.
On the 30th. First thing out of her mouth, oh my God, I hope it didn't come from one of the people in my lab. I hope it didn't come from one of my experiments, right?
And then this is the woman who everybody's been hearing all these things about from Epic Times, et cetera, et cetera. There's the one woman from her lab who's been scrubbed from all the documents.
She doesn't exist, a non-person. But this is where Gates, where Ms.L and these people are saying, go back to the lab and let's see about that. We clearly want to do that and have to do that. But Gates gets him off the hook. And the other thing, he wants to because he knows the World Health Organization is going to get blown up in the same time. Because the World Health Organization, 95% of the deaths, 95% of the economic carnage could have been stopped if in the last week of December, when Jack Maxey's pulling blog sites, Miles Guo's broadcasting, Taiwan, the Free Chinese in Taiwan are telling the World Health Organization, and Dr. Lee, you got 4 guys, Dr. Lee is on the WeChat telling him, hey, we got a SARS breakout that's going human to human, and they pull him out and torture him. Those 4 data points right there in the last week of December. Bill Gates, you liar. This is what you are, dude, and we're going to be relentless going after you, right? And we're not coming after the anti-vax, those guys can do what they want to do. God bless them. We're coming at you as a stone cold liar. You came in the White House today yammering for money back in the early days. We gave you no money, right? And the reason is you're a bad dude, okay? You're a bad dude. You got a hidden program, and you've taken the side of Beijing. You have sided with the devils on this. We'll be back next hour with China.
Stay tuned to get a free pan from Granite Stone. Stuck on eggs, burnt on batter. You can scrub and scrape, but you can't escape the nightmare of your sticky pans. Introducing the Granite Stone Pan, the all-new durable non-stick pan. No butter or oil needed. Watch, we melted down these sticky candies in Granite Stone, and it just doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction, then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the